The Great Maple Heist, How I Took Back My Life. I hit 61 that day, and all I really wanted was a chill dinner with my son, Etienne, his wife Chloe, and a few close pals. Nothing fancy, EH. Just some good grub, warm company, and maybe a little clink of glass. The evening started out normal enough. The restaurant was one of those hot new spots Chloe picked out. You know, the kind, exposed brick, those trendy Edison bulbs hanging everywhere. Servers calling you boss. I would barely even settled in before she handed me a gift bag, tissue paper fluffed up like a peacock's tail. Inside was a printed baby onesie that said, "Best grandma ever." "We thought it was time," she said, all wide-eyed innocence and manicured sweetness, "to start planning the nursery, right, Etienne?" He smiled, almost too calm, too rehearsed, and nodded. "Yeah, especially since we will have more space soon," I blinked. "More space." Chloe leaned in across the table. "We are just so grateful you agreed." "Maureen." Honestly, not every mom would be this generous. The table went quiet. I frowned, completely clueless as to what I would supposedly agreed to. Before I could even ask, Etienne stood up and tapped his spoon against his wine glass. "Can I grab everyone's attention for a sec?" He paused, then in a voice just loud enough to make the servers stop in their tracks, he added. "Before we dive in, make sure to like and subscribe, EH, and tell me and everyone else what is one life lesson folks should hear before it is too late. Share it in the comments below, EH. Thanks." Then he raised his voice slightly. "Tonight's not just about celebrating my incredible mom's birthday. It is also about a big change for our family." Chloe pulled out her phone, recording. "We are moving into mom's apartment." Etienne beamed. "It just makes sense. She does not need all that space anymore, and we are starting a family. It is such a gift, honestly. So generous. Let us raise a glass to the woman who made it happen." Glasses clinked. I did not move. My fork hung in midair, limp in my hand. He looked at me, smiling too hard. "Right, Mom." The pressure in the room snapped into place like a trap springing shut. Chloe had the camera right on me. Everyone stared, waiting for my reaction. I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I panicked. My brain froze. I felt like I had been pushed onto a stage in the middle of a performance I would never audition for. I forced a smile, took a sip of wine, and waited for the room to move on. It did not really. The conversation shifted, but I sat there as the blood drained from my face, the meal turning to cardboard in my mouth. Chloe launched into how she would redecorate the apartment. Paint swatches, crib placements, taking down the old lady curtains. She laughed and said, "Of course, we will let you visit. You can still keep your plants on the balcony if you want." Etienne added, "We will give you plenty of time to move. No pressure." They had not even asked me. They would declared, announced to my friends, that my home, the place I would shared with my late husband, Arthur, for 30 years, the home I would cried in, slept in, repaired by hand after a pipe burst, was now their starter nursery. I excused myself halfway through dessert. Etienne gave me a look like I was being dramatic, but I just told them I was not feeling well. Chloe offered to call a rideshare. I declined. I walked 3 blocks in heels I had not worn in years until my toes blistered and my chest burned, but it was the only way to get my thoughts to stop screaming. By the time I got home, my apartment felt different. Not safe. Not mine. I locked the door, checked it again, and then again. Their voices echoed in my head. Chloe laughing about my curtains. Etienne saying I did not need the space. My husband's photos lined the bookshelf. And suddenly they looked like warnings, not memories. I sat at the kitchen table with my hands flat against the surface, and I could not move for almost an hour. When I finally did, I opened a drawer I had not touched in months. My husband's old file folders. Legal documents, wills, emergency contacts. The last time I looked through them was right after his funeral. I found something there I would forgotten, a power of attorney form from 2 years ago, signed during a hospital stay when I had pneumonia. Etienne's name was on it. My stomach turned. I texted my lawyer, Annette, at midnight and asked if it was still valid. The reply came in the morning. "If you did not revoke it." "Yes. We need to talk." That is when it hit me. Etienne was not guessing. He was not asking. He was executing a plan. I did not sleep that night, not even for a second. I kept seeing Etienne's face as he clinked that glass and made the announcement, the way he looked at me. not with love, not with hesitation, but with expectation, like I was a check being cashed. I sat on the couch with my robe wrapped tight, staring at nothing while Chloe's voice replayed in my head. We are just so grateful you agreed. I never agreed, not with words, not with looks, but I did not stop it either. I let the performance go on. That was my mistake, and now it was already spreading. When I checked my phone in the morning, Chloe had posted a real slow, panning shots of my living room, set to soft acoustic music captioned, "The beginning of our family's next chapter, saying goodbye to Grandma's place and hello to our new home." My couch, my bookshelves, my window with the lace curtains. 37 comments. So sweet of her to pass it down. She must be so proud. I scrolled until I could not breathe. Etienne had already emailed me a transition plan, a list of things they wanted moved out by the end of the month, along with suggested dates for the handover and a link to a Pinterest board titled Neutral Nursery Aesthetic. There were photos of my bedroom stripped down to a crib and rocking chair. I had not even responded to the dinner yet. I had not said yes, but they had. I called Annette before 9:00 a.m. Her tone was sharp the moment I mentioned Etienne's name on the old power of attorney. "You need to come in today." I dressed like I was going to war. Pressed slacks, collared shirt, shoes that made noise on hardwood. I brought every folder, every deed, every old paper I could find. She flipped through it all, lips pursed. "You never revoked this, Maureen. Technically, he has access to make some decisions on your behalf if you are deemed medically unable." "But I am not," I said. "Correct. But if he had a doctor say you were showing signs of memory decline or exhibiting confusion, even just on a form, he could use this to challenge you in court. It is rare, but it happens, especially in family property disputes." My stomach dropped. She looked at me over her glasses. "We need to revoke this now, and you need to be careful what you say and sign. Everything needs to go through me. Do you understand?" I nodded. I did not trust my voice. When I got home that afternoon, my key did not work on the front gate. For 2 full minutes I jiggled, twisted, panicked, until I realized the gate lock had simply been stiff with the cold. I felt like an idiot, but I also wondered for one terrifying second if they would change the locks. That night, I did not cook. I did not clean. I sat at my kitchen table and wrote out a list. Everything I would pay for in Etienne's adult life, his college tuition I would help cover when he lost his scholarship, his wedding, where I paid for the flowers and half the catering. The emergency loan for their IVF treatments 2 years ago, that never happened. They were not even trying. They just said the word baby and knew I would melt. And now this. I walked into my bedroom and opened the closet. There were old photo albums on the top shelf. I pulled one down and flipped through the pages. Etienne in his Little League uniform. Chloe at the engagement party smiling with perfect teeth. Me and Arthur holding champagne flutes in this very apartment. I closed the book. Then I pulled out my phone. I texted Etienne one sentence, "We need to talk," and not through announcements or Pinterest boards. No reply for 4 hours. When it finally came, it was a single thumbs up emoji. That is when I knew I was not his mother anymore. I was his obstacle. A locked door, a name on a deed, something he needed to move out of the way. And he was not going to ask again. 3 days after the dinner, a manila envelope slid under my apartment door while I was in the shower. No knock, no doorbell, just the soft scrape of paper against tile. I did not even notice it until I stepped out and nearly slipped on it with wet feet. I opened it right there in my towel, heart already racing before I unfolded the pages. It was a document titled Preliminary Transfer Agreement, Residential Property. It was a line for my name already filled in, another line for Etienne, and another for Chloe. The only one blank was the signature mine. Attached was a cover note written in Etienne's voice, but clearly typed by someone else. "No rush. Just need this signed before Friday to move forward with bank approvals. Thanks again, Mom." Bank approvals. That meant they were not just planning. They were already using my home as leverage. I sat down on the edge of the tub, paper dripping from my hand. I texted Annette again, and she called me within minutes. I sent her a photo of the document. Her voice dropped into something calm but firm. "He is moving forward under the assumption this is already his. If you sign that, it is over." Don't even leave it on the counter unattended. Shred it. I said he mailed it. She said then that means he is creating a paper trail that makes it look like you are participating voluntarily. Don't respond. Do not engage in writing. That evening I pulled out the filing cabinet again, determined to understand every scrap of paper tied to my name. That is when I found it a health directive packet from 2 years ago, during my hospital stay when I would have the chest infection. I had signed a few forms under stress, mostly boilerplate stuff, but buried in the packet was a limited authority designation, naming Etienne as my proxy for financial decisions during incapacity. I remembered it now. He would brought it to me while I was hooked up to an IV, saying, just sign these so I can help with the insurance stuff. I had not even read them. Just scribbled my name to get him off my back. My lawyer confirmed it later that night. If they found one doctor willing to claim I was forgetful or confused, they could try to challenge my ability to manage my own asset. It would not be easy, but it would be enough to freeze me up in court. And if I had accidentally agreed to something over email or text without realizing the implications, they could spin that as consent. I went completely still. I replayed the birthday dinner. The way Chloe smiled while filming me. The way Etienne kept using past tense language. Mom agreed. She is letting us. She said we could. It was not sloppy. It was practiced, rehearsed. He was narrating a version of the truth that they would have been building behind my back. And I had let them. I spent the next morning freezing my credit, securing my bank accounts, and revoking every form of power Etienne had ever held. I removed him from my emergency contacts. I changed the passwords to my financial apps. I started keeping every interaction in writing and screenshotting everything. I did not reply to his texts anymore, but I saved everyone. That evening, I called the building manager and asked who had accessed the security gate the night before. He hesitated, then said, Etienne used your spare key. He said he was checking on you. I had not asked him to. I had not been hurt. I had not even known he still had a spare. I asked if the lock could be changed. He said yes, but it would take a formal request. So I filed one. That night, I moved all my important documents into a metal lockbox and put it under my bed. I stopped drinking wine with dinner. I stopped taking sleep aids. I needed my mind sharp. I started journaling every single interaction I had with Etienne and Chloe in case I ever needed to prove my mental clarity. I even made a fake grocery list one night and added it to the journal. To timestamp my handwriting. I was not being paranoid. I was being hunted. They were not just hoping I would hand over my home. They were building a case to take it without asking. The doorbell rang 2 days later, and when I looked through the peephole, Chloe stood there smiling like nothing had happened, holding a white gift bag and a cup of iced coffee with my name misspelled on it in marker. I opened the door halfway, not enough to invite her in. Just thought I would stop by, she said, voice sugar sweet. Wanted to check on you. And I brought your favorite hazelnut cream. Extra ice. She tried to hand me the drink, but I did not move. You did not text first. She laughed lightly, brushing it off. I figured it would be nice to pop in. You have been quiet. I let her stand there, hoping silence might make her leave, but instead she pushed the gift bag toward me. It is vitamins, she said, eyes wide, like a child about to share a secret. Prenatals, we are hoping. But you already knew that. I blinked. You are pregnant? She placed a hand on her stomach dramatically, like she was already showing. Just a couple weeks. We were not going to say anything, but after the dinner, she looked down, pretending to get emotional. It meant so much that you gave us your place. We feel like it is a sign. She was not pregnant. I knew it the moment she said it. Her eyes were too alert, too eager. And later, when she finally came in, after I stepped aside for a second, she put her purse down and went straight to the kitchen, opened the fridge, pulled out a sparkling water, and drank it without checking the label. No one worried about caffeine or carbonation that casually if they were newly pregnant and anxious. But I did not say anything. I just watched. She started walking through the apartment like it already belonged to her, talking about where the crib would go, how she would repaint the walls, how she might knock out the narrow hall closet to open the space. I stood in the corner of the living room, frozen, listening to her redesign my home like she was flipping it for resale. This bookshelf, she said, running her fingers along the top. We can donate it, right? It is a little outdated. My husband built that bookshelf with his own hands 31 years ago. I did not respond. She went on, opening drawers, peeking into the laundry room, commenting on what furniture was worth keeping. I followed her silently into the hallway. We should probably convert this room into a nursery sooner than later, she said, gesturing toward my sewing room. You know, before you get tired of climbing stairs, babies need a calm environment, not clutter. That was when something in me finally snapped, but I still did not yell. I just asked, Chloe, when did your doctor confirm the pregnancy? She blinked, fast, caught, then laughed awkwardly. It is early. Too early for tests. I just know. So no ultrasound, no blood work. I mean, we are going Monday, she stammered. Anyway, you will be the first to know. Obviously. Obviously. The word rang in my ears like an insult. I watched her take her sparkling water back to the living room and scroll on her phone while her purse sat open on the kitchen counter. Inside, I saw a manila folder. I waited until she was in the bathroom. When I peeked in, I saw copies of my apartment floor plan, labeled with new furniture placement and a printed Zillow estimate of its current value. She was staging the property. They had not moved in. They were flipping it in their heads, maybe even to someone else. I snapped a photo of the documents, returned the folder quietly, and sat on the couch before she came back out. Do you want to stay for dinner? I asked. She looked shocked, then smiled. Sure, that'd be so nice. Should I call Etienne? I said, no, just us. I served her frozen pasta and stale wine. Let her get comfortable. Then I watched her leave around 8, still smiling, still talking about color palettes and baby names, completely unaware I had seen what was in her bag. I locked the door after her and pushed my heavy sewing machine in front of it. I was not scared. I was focused. I opened my phone, scrolled through my screenshots, and started a new folder called Proof. This was not family, this was fraud. And now I had evidence. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise and started packing not with boxes, but with information. I called my old friend Iris, a retired real estate agent who now lived 3 towns over in Port Hope and mostly spent her days tending roses and ignoring her ex-husband's texts. Iris did not ask why I was calling at 6:11 a.m., just said, talk to me. And I did. I told her everything. Every step from the birthday dinner to Chloe's fake pregnancy, the documents in the purse, the forged narrative they were spreading like a family fairy tale. Iris listened without interrupting, then said, you need to get out before they realize you have caught on. She offered to help me list the apartment quietly through her network of private buyers. No public listings, no online photos, just word of mouth among serious cash clients. You will get a little less, she said, but it keeps them from interfering or contesting the sale before it closes. I agreed immediately. The next 3 days, I played dumb. I texted Etienne short, friendly replies. I liked Chloe's new nursery photos on Instagram. I posted a picture of my dinner one night, meatloaf and mashed potatoes, with a caption about how nothing beats home cooking. I wanted them to believe I was still docile, still soft. Meanwhile, I booked an inspection for a small property I found through Iris, a 2-bedroom cabin 2 provinces away in a lakeside retirement town called Lakeview, where no one knew me and no one owed Etienne anything. The listing photos showed an outdated kitchen and a cracked patio, but I did not care. It was private, it was mine. The seller was a widower looking to downsize and agreed to sell for cash if I did. Not haggle. We shook hands the next day. While Etienne thought I was watching cooking shows, I was coordinating a wire transfer and scheduling movers for furniture I had not told anyone I was taking. I hired a man from church, Frank, who had a truck and did not ask questions. He boxed up my husband's old workshop gear, the heirloom dishes, and the boxes of photos from the attic, all in one day. I told the building superintendent I would be traveling indefinitely and not to share anything with family unless I gave permission. He raised his eyebrows but nodded. Then I went down to the leasing office and changed my emergency contact to Iris. I changed my mailing address to a P.O. box in the new town. Started forwarding mail through Canada Post with a random start date 2 weeks later so they would not notice the gap. I even called the electric company and set a shut-off date under the excuse that I was moving in with a relative for medical recovery. The woman on the phone offered condolences I did not correct, Every day I kept a neutral face, a gentle tone. I let Etienne believe I was weak. I let Chloe believe I was grateful. But behind their backs, I was unraveling their whole plan. The fourth day, Chloe texted me a video, her sitting on my living room couch, talking about bringing warmth back into the space. The caption read, "Soon to be ours, but forever Grandma's legacy." It had 2,000 views. I did not cry. I took a screenshot. I filed it under proof. That night, I left one single hint. I placed an empty suitcase in the hallway where Chloe would see it the next time she popped in without asking. She would think I was packing for a short trip. She would tell Etienne. They would think they still had time. They did not. I was leaving before the week was out. And by the time they realized, the keys would be in someone else's hand. And the only trace I would left behind would be a locked file cabinet and the scent of lavender. They would never be able to wash off the curtains. It happened on a Tuesday, late afternoon, just as I was wrapping up a call with the title company, confirming that the apartment sale would close in 72 hours, all in cash. No contingencies, just how Iris had arranged it. I had just hung up when the knock came, sharp, insistent, not the polite kind. I did not answer. I stood in the hallway, silent, listening. The knock came again, then a voice. Etienne's. "Mom, open the door." I did not move. I knew he would brought his key. I also knew had the locks changed 2 days ago. A detail I had not mentioned to anyone. I heard the key try, fail, jiggle, a pause, then a heavier knock. "Mom, I need to talk to you." I waited. Eventually, he stopped trying the lock and just started talking through the door. "Look, you are not answering my texts, and Chloe's freaking out. We need to know what is going on." I did not reply. I just leaned against the wall, arms folded. "We found out about the realtor," he said, tone shifting. "Iris called someone we know. You are selling the place. Are you serious?" Silence. "You are sabotaging your own family. Do you understand that?" More silence. Then his voice got lower, quieter, like he thought I was standing right there. "If you do not open this door and talk like an adult, I swear to God, I will do what I have to do legally." He left after that, but he left something behind, an envelope shoved through the doorframe, almost exactly like the one I had gotten before. Inside was a formal notice, typed and printed, a request for transitional occupancy review, signed by a legal assistant from a firm I did not recognize, with a highlighted section that said, "Pending potential medical guardianship claim." I took the paper, placed it on the table, and called Annette. She answered before the second ring. I read the sentence aloud. She sighed. "They are escalating. They are going to try and challenge your competency. They are not just pushing. They are building a case." That night, I sat at the kitchen table with my lockbox open, organizing my documents, copying files, recording myself reading a summary of my financial decisions to date with timestamps, and emailing it to a secure folder my lawyer had access to. I attached a list of every transaction, every screenshot, every text. I narrated why I had done each thing clearly, without stammering, with dates, times, and references. I showed the sale agreement, the purchase offer on the cabin, the inspection report. It was exhausting, but it had to be airtight. I was not just protecting my assets. I was protecting my mind. Because the moment someone says you are forgetful, people stop listening to what you actually remember. The next day, Chloe showed up alone. She did not even knock. She stood in the hallway, yelling loud enough for neighbors to peek through their blinds. "We are trying to grow our family, and you are being cruel," she screamed. "You said we would have a home. You said we were welcome." She pulled out her phone, and I saw the little red light blinking. She was filming. I opened the door just enough to be seen, but not enough to be heard clearly. And I said only one word, "Leave." Her video caught that. Just that. Her crying. Me looking cold. That night, a video went up on her account titled, "When Family Betrays You. A Pregnancy Without a Home." It had music, slow fades, and over 4,000 likes within hours. People commented, "How could a mother do this? Disgusting behavior from a boomer hoarder. She does not deserve grandkids." I screenshotted everything, saved every post, sent it all to my lawyer. The next day, Etienne texted me a single sentence, "If you want to avoid court, sign the attached, and we will forget all of this." It was a PDF, a transfer of deed agreement. Chloe had signed it. Etienne had signed it. My name was left blank. I forwarded it without opening it. Then I texted Etienne back for the first time in days, "You will be served within the week. Do not contact me again." Then I turned off my phone. By sunset, I had my bags packed, my keys ready, and a note left behind for the buyers. "Everything here is yours now, except the silence that I am taking with me." I left at 4:35 a.m., just before the sky began to change, when the streets were quiet and the only sound was my rolling suitcase crossing the cracked pavement outside the apartment I had lived in for 32 years. I did not look back. Iris met me 2 towns over with coffee and a smile that said everything she could not say out loud. The cabin was 4 hours away, tucked near a lake, surrounded by trees and silent. And when I arrived, I did not unpack right away. I just stood in the empty kitchen and exhaled so deeply it felt like I had been holding my breath for months. I did not check my phone. I knew what would be waiting. And I was right. When I finally turned it on 3 days later, there were 37 missed calls, 19 voicemails, and more than 60 texts, mostly from Etienne, a few from Chloe, and several from numbers I did not recognize. But it was the group text that made my stomach twist. Cousins, family, friends, even my own sister had been pulled in. Screenshots. Chloe had sent them the video of me kicking her out. Etienne had written a long message about how I would abandon them right when their baby was coming, how I would flipped their home out from under them and ran away like a coward. The baby lie was still going. But worse, people were believing it. I did not reply to a single message, but I read them all. And the disappointment hit like cold water. People who I would hosted for holidays, helped with bills, called when their parents died, now saying things like, "I hope you come to your senses," or "Family should stick together." It was clear Etienne was not just rewriting our story. He was casting himself as the victim. But then something unexpected happened. My niece, Melissa, the one who never liked Chloe, texted me privately, "Aunt Maureen, I do not buy any of this." "You okay?" I replied, "Yes, safe and done." She sent back a heart emoji and said, "Call me if you ever need backup." I did not cry, but I felt it. The quiet loyalty. It reminded me not everyone was fooled. The next day, Annette called to confirm the sale had closed. The funds were transferred, the deed filed. Legally, the apartment was no longer mine, and never Etienne's. I asked her about the guardianship threats. She said, "They won't risk filing now. You have outmaneuvered them, and the social narrative won't hold in court once we show the real timeline. But you should update your will immediately." I already had, weeks ago. Everything now went to a community trust that supported older women starting over my cabin, my savings, even the small life insurance policy I would kept all these years. Etienne and Chloe were not only cut out, they were legally blocked from contesting it. That evening, I emailed the final copy to Annette, then poured myself a glass of water and sat on the front porch of the cabin, watching the sun disappear behind the trees. It was quiet, not lonely, just clean, wide open quiet. My phone buzzed one last time before I turned it off for the night. It was Etienne. No greeting, no apology. Just, "If Dad could see you now, he would be disgusted." I did not reply. I did not need to. I knew exactly what his father would say if he were alive. He would say, "She should have done it sooner." It started with a package. No return address. No note. Just a slim white box left outside the cabin's front door, wrapped in tissue paper and ribbon like some kind of peace offering. Inside was a framed sonogram photo and a card that said, "Can we start over? -C and A." The image looked real at first glance, but I had seen it before. Chloe had posted the same stock sonogram from a pregnancy app months ago as a vision board placeholder. They had printed a fake, mailed it, framed it. I set it on the counter without touching it again. 2 days later came the email. Subject line, "Dinner." Message body, "We will be in your area this weekend. Let us just talk. No pressure, just family." I did not respond. On Saturday night, headlights appeared on the gravel road around 6:40 p.m., just as the sun was dipping behind the tree line. I watched from the kitchen window as a silver SUV parked at the base of the path. They got out, dressed too nicely for a surprise visit, Chloe in heels, Etienne in his old blazer holding a bottle of wine. I did not open the door. I let them knock. First soft, then harder. "Mom," Etienne called. "We just want to talk. We drove all this way. I stood inside with the lights off, hands resting on the back of the chair, not moving, not reacting. Chloe's voice joined his, suddenly cracking with false emotion. "You are shutting out your grandchild," she yelled. "Is that what you want?" I did not reply. I did not need to. They stood outside for 22 minutes. I timed it. Eventually, the wine bottle was left on the step, and they drove off without a word. The label read Forgiveness Pinot Noir. I poured it down the drain. That night, Etienne sent one final message: "You win. Hope it was worth losing your family." I did not reply. I simply screenshotted it, added it to the folder, and deleted his contact for good. The next morning, I had coffee with my new neighbor, Claire, who had moved to the area after divorcing her husband of 40 years and starting a tiny soap business out of her garage. She laughed when I told her about the fake sonogram. "People get bold when money's involved," she said. "But you did not give them what they wanted. That makes you dangerous to them now." I nodded. Dangerous felt new. It felt right. That week, I bought a new garden bed, planted thyme and mint, and joined the local co-op. When the phone buzzed again on Friday, it was a number I did not recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then curiosity won, and I hit play. It was Chloe. "Hi, Maureen. It is me. I know things got messy, and I just wanted to say we are still hoping to keep a door open for the baby, for the future. Please call." I deleted it because the only door that mattered was the one they could never walk through again. It was not a dramatic affair. No mahogany office or gasps from shocked relatives. Just a quiet meeting over black coffee at Annette's desk on a cloudy Thursday morning. The final signature sealing what I would already known in my bones. Etienne and Chloe were officially cut out of everything. No fallback clause, no vague reconsideration, just a clean, binding document stating that every asset I owned, from my cabin to my savings to the silver photo frame on my nightstand, now belonged to a community endowment I created in my husband's name, dedicated to supporting older women escaping financial or emotional abuse from their families. Annette slid me a hard copy as she double-checked each page. "It is done," she said. "If they challenge it, they will lose. The paper trail is unbreakable." I nodded and took the folder, feeling the weight of it like armor. 2 days later, Melissa called. "I think Etienne knows," she said. "He has been posting those passive-aggressive, quote, images again. Betrayal always comes from the ones closest to you," kind of stuff. And Chloe changed her Instagram bio to Chosen Family Only. I laughed for the first time in weeks, short and hard. "Let them quote," I said. "They lost the right to my name when they tried to steal." A week after that, I got a letter from the charities board confirming the account had gone live under the name The Quiet Exit Fund, with my first deposit already allocated. I reread the paperwork twice before tucking it into the cabinet beside my tea mugs. That night, I opened a bottle of sparkling water and sat outside as the breeze came off the lake, scrolling through photos of the apartment I no longer owned. A new family had moved in, young, simple, normal. No nursery plans, no manipulation, just smiles and a clean living room. No filters. And in the background, I saw the old bookshelf my husband built, still standing. They had not torn it down. They would place plants on it. It felt like closure. My phone buzzed again later that night. A message from Etienne's old college roommate, of all people. "Saw what they did. You were right to cut them off. Wish my mom had done the same before my sister drained her dry." I replied with a simple thank you, because the truth was I had not just protected myself. I would put a name on something millions of people lived through and never talked about. I was done being quiet. And while they stewed in their echo chambers of fake grievances, I had rewritten the ending they thought they were entitled to write. I did not give them a fight. I gave them silence, and that, I was learning, was louder than anything they could scream. 6 months later, I stood on the back porch of my cabin, barefoot, with my hands wrapped around a warm mug of mint tea grown from the planter box I would built myself, watching a line of birds trace the sky like a string being pulled across the lake. I had not heard from Etienne or Chloe in over 2 months. Not since the final legal notice went through, barring them from contacting me about any inheritance or estate matters. They did not contest the will. They did not try again. I think they finally understood I was gone, not just physically, but entirely. as if the version of me they would once manipulated had packed her bags and disappeared forever. I spent my days differently now, mornings in the garden, afternoons volunteering at the community center, evenings learning how to play chess with Claire, who swore I had a killer instinct under all that politeness. I would make friends, real ones, who never asked about money, who did not smile only when they needed something. The cabin had become more than a retreat. It was a restart. I cooked again. I laughed out loud. I slept without clutching my phone like a weapon. The day before my birthday, I got a letter from Melissa with a photo of her newborn daughter and a note that simply read, "If she grows up to be half as strong as you, I will have done something right." I pinned it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a sunflower and cried the quiet kind of tears that do not sting, the kind that rinse the last of something away. That evening, I sat at the table and wrote a check to a shelter that helps older women escaping financial control, signed it, and sealed it with the words, "Use it well." She got out. As the sun dipped behind the trees and the breeze moved gently through the wind chimes, I would hung from an old pine hook. My phone buzzed once more, an unknown number. I did not flinch. I did not even look. I powered it off and slid it in a drawer. I did not need it anymore, because this life I had built, with no audience, no performance, no one clapping for something they helped break, was finally mine. The cabin was quiet, and so was I, and for the first time in years, that silence did not feel like something missing. It felt like peace. Permanent. Final. Exactly how I wanted it. Exactly what they were never going to touch again.